Knitting Daily has been sponsored in part by Lion Brand Yarn, our quality shows since 1878. LionBrand.com.
In the third part of our knit along, we're going to move right along on our little lamb sock critter. So Zontee, tell me what we're doing now. Let's take a look first at the chart. Right.
As you can remember last time, we did our setup row, and then we did the next row, row 2. So now we're on row 3. We've worked all the way across, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to do your cable stitch.
Okay, and on the chart we've marked where the body, where the moss stitch ends and where the cable panel begins, and we've done the same on our swatch, right?
Exactly.
Let's go to our swatch.
That's something that I really like to do, is just put in stitch markers wherever it's going to help you reference things.
Okay. So the symbol on the chart tells us that we need a right cross 1/1 cable. So let's do that on the swatch.
So what that means is oops. Oh no.
There you go.
Okay.
And with our cable needle,
we're going to take our one stitch and we're going to hold it in the back.
so you just slipped it to the cable needle.
Exactly. And then we're going to take our next stitch, we're going to go ahead and knit it. And what this does is it causes it to cross right and actually move ahead of that stitch that we put in the back that we've got on hold, basically. Now that we've worked our one stitch, we work that stitch that we put in the back.
Right off the cable needle.
Exactly. And I've chosen to use a cable needle that's a little bit smaller than my actual needle so that I have a little space. It just makes it a little easier.
And let's lay it flat for people so that they can see that those stitches are already crossed there. And you would just follow that up right all the way through the body.
That's exactly right. You just follow the pattern as it shows you the symbols, and you cross where it tells you to cross.
Oh, great. And then once you've moved all the way up the body, you're left with this, right?
That's right. So once you've gotten through the entire flat section of your body, what you're going to do is switch over to double point needles and actually pick up your stitches on 3 sides. Here, and then in your back 8 stitches, and on the other side back 8 stitches.
Let's just show this to everybody flat for a moment. You can see that this is the wrong side, right, of what we were just working on. And then you'll just join to knit really in the round on double pointed needles.
Exactly.
And this is just a simple rib, is that right?
That's right, a 1x1 rib.
And that will eventually be his neck.
That's right.
So then how do we go from here to the next step?
The next step is to start shaping the body, and this is where the sock shaping really comes into play. Because what you're going to do is go back to working flat, and you're going to work on 2 of your double point needles. You remember that in the last step we had 3 in there, with 1 in the front, 16 stitches, and then 8 in the back on each. So we're going to work needles 1 and 3 only in the back, and you're going to work up. And this is exactly the same as heel shaping on a sock.
Like the heel flap on a sock.
That's right.
So you're just leaving these stitches alone. I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Right.
They're just being held there, basically.
Exactly. It's almost like using your needle as a stitch holder, if you've ever used a stitch holder. And that's going to create this area of his head.
The back of his head. So let's just show everyone that on this back, you're just working straight up the back there.
Exactly. And so here we've actually started finishing up this area where we actually start decreasing so that we can get to the next step. And so we've already decreased 1 stitch on each of these needles, and we've done that knitwise. Now we're going to purl 2 together on this row, and we're actually going to continue to decrease. So to purl 2 together, I put my needle in 2 stitches purlwise. I yarn over, I pull it through, and I take it off the needles, both stitches. And then I'm going to continue working in that same moss stitch pattern that we have already going on.
So just keep on knitting across that row and we'll take a look at what that looks like. So it's a purl stitch because
the last 2 rows were knit. I'm going to continue to do that just all the way across.
And it can get a little bit awkward when you have a bunch of needles working like this, right? So
sure.
Do you have any tips for kind of how to keep things organized there? Keep knitting. 2
things. One is to keep in mind that you're only working with 2 needles at a time, so it's not nearly as daunting as one might actually think. And in the case where you're starting to feel like your needles are getting in your way, sometimes it can help to rearrange them one on top of the other. So if I'm finding that this is a hassle for me, I can move it over to the other side and actually just slide them back and forth as well so that you can actually get yourself some leverage.
Make sure there's some play there.
Exactly.
So work across the whole row and we'll see
Sure.
what that does.
So like I said before, your needle that you finish working with is actually your new working needle. Sometimes people make the mistake of actually taking this needle and working all the way across, and that's not right. So here we're going to knit because we see that we have 2 purls below it. And then we're going to purl. And that's the great thing about really being able to read your stitches and see what's actually below them. It allows you to just do it visually so that you don't have to keep referencing your pattern over and over again.
Purl. And now do you make a matching decrease on this side as we began the row with?
That's exactly right.
So now it's a knit 2 together or a purl 2 together?
So we're going to knit 2 together. So you want to put your needle through as if to knit.
Both stitches at once.
That's exactly right. And then we wrap as if to knit, pull it through, and then take both off the needle.
Well, great. And I can see already that there's a little bit of shape to his head, and it's starting to curve over,
It
just
gives a
like
little
it
bit
would
of bowing around.
at the bottom of a sock.
Exactly.
Well, great. And let's take a look at what that looks like on the little fella here. This is sort of where the head kind of begins to curve that way.
Exactly.
that
And you
right?
can see it also kind of curves in this way as well.
And then will you pick up all the way around and start working in the round again,
That's
around
right.
his face?
So once you get to the top right here, what you're going to do is start working on all 3 needles again, and you work around this way. So all you do is start working on all 3 needles instead of just the 2.
And then you switch to the gray and make decreases to make the front of his face.
Very simple.
Well, great. This is so much fun. And that's today's show. Remember to make time for yarn every day and join us again next time as Knitting Daily looks at heirloom needlecraft traditions.
Knitting Daily has been sponsored in part by Lion Brand Yarn, our quality shows since 1878. lionbrand.com